Lots to talk about today. I am going to start by covering some insights on nutrition, as well as then strength, sleep, breathing, and supplements. These are the 5 areas that I want to cover in this episode and give you a couple insights based on my past 8 years in the industry. But I'd like to start by saying I am not a dietitian, and I want to make that crystal clear. Many trainers are not dietitians. They are not registered dietitians. They're not qualified to actually give nutritional advice. And so I'm not going to, because that is one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last 8 years, is that I feel like trainers as a whole can do a better job of staying within their scope of practice. I think it's tempting to step outside of that because a lot of these worlds seem to blend together when we're training clients, but we should stick to the nuts and bolts. Movement mechanics, training, improving the quality of life through movement and physical activity, and we will strengthen the industry, and clients will have a better outcome if we unify ourselves with licensed professionals within the industry. I really, truly believe this, and I believe it for several reasons. One, I've done a lot of different experiments in the last 8 years with food. I've been vegan, I've been vegetarian on and off, paleo. I was a diehard bulletproof coffee connoisseur. And each time that I went through one of these phases, I was pretty dogmatic about it and really believed that that was the truth. That was the only thing, and everyone else who wasn't on board just didn't understand yet what they were missing. So I can't generalize for the entire industry of trainers based on my experience with these nutritional experiments, but I can say that when you become a personal trainer and when you study to get certified, you're not getting certified in nutrition. And it's in our clients' best interests to make this line pretty clear. We are here to, like I said, improve quality of life through movement, to build proficiency in movement patterns and mechanics, improve mobility, range of motion, flexibility, and have the insight to properly load those things that we're improving so that our clients can get the best physiological output. Unfortunately, the world of nutrition fits right in with personal training, and it fills a lot of the conversations that you have on a day-to-day basis because, as we all know, nutrition is a massive hurdle to overcome in the journey of weight loss, weight management, muscle building, and elimination of fat. But again, we're not qualified. If you have a registered dietitian certification on top of your personal training certification, that's excellent. If you have an advanced nutrition degree on top of your personal training certification, that is phenomenal. And you are really strengthening yourself and your business to better handle the challenges that ultimately we face with clients, of how to overcome choices that have been hardened over 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 years. The other aspect here is that food and nutrition are more psychological than anything else. It's a hardwiring over a lifetime that leads to making choices the way that we do. And if you haven't spent your entire life in an athletic setting eating for performance, it wouldn't make any sense that you're primed to make those kind of choices inherently. And I would argue that trainers are not equipped to help individuals navigate these food choices when there are psychological blocks that will limit the person from enacting change anyway. Now, what I'm not suggesting is that trainers give up on their clients and that all clients stop asking questions about nutrition. But what I am saying is that it would be in the best interest of the client to work with a registered dietitian or make food choices and supplement choices based on their own individual blood work. Then work with the trainer to improve their body mechanics so that they can take advantage of the fact that they're eating properly and put it into a movement setting. Dieting, in my eyes, is an epidemic. I'll read you a couple little statistics here from the World Health Organization that I find interesting regarding obesity. So the WHO states as recently as March 4th, 2022, that 650 million adults 340 million adolescents and 39 million children globally suffer from obesity. And this number is still increasing. They estimate that by 2025, approximately 167 million people, adults and children, will become less healthy because they are overweight or obese. Why is this important? Other than the obvious, with the obesity epidemic growing, the diet industry will continue to grow. Paleo, vegan, keto, fruitarian, carnivore, omnivore, plant-based, raw vegan, Mediterranean, you name it. As the demand for solving obesity grows, as more people want to not be obese, at the same time that this number is growing, it will only produce more supply of dietary options, which is going to continue to make it confusing of what to do right. What is the right way to go? How is the best way to enact change in your day-to-day? And again, that's where I feel like we need to lean on the professionals within the nutrition industry to properly navigate this problem. Registered dietitians, doctors, people that actually know from a scientific standpoint what they're talking about when it comes to food. And instead of dieting, eliminating, or restricting, which almost certainly return you back to where you started originally, I really recommend that people take a moment, take stock of where you're at. Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what choices am I making? And if that doesn't give you an answer, begin to track. Begin to write it down physically yourself in a book and start to get answers where you don't have them. The old saying, what's measured gets managed, is ever true when it comes to nutrition. Because you can't make choices about things that you don't know. And if you aren't sure what your nutritional habits are, someone else can't provide that for you. You have to develop an understanding of where they are by yourself. And that starts with writing down what you're actually consuming. There's been thousands of times where I ask someone how their food is, generally, open-ended question. How was your food this week? It was great. What did you eat? Just salad. But when they track, it's not just salad. When you track everything, it tends to be quite a bit different. And that's no fault of the person doing the tracking. It's just that we haven't developed the awareness yet to understand where we are. Tracking becomes an integral part of that. Because once you've tracked information, you actually have data on the choices that you make in a week, you can start to make changes about those things naturally. Changes that you make that stick because you're doing it, not because someone else is telling you, not because a magazine is showing you a picture of what you won't look like. If you want to change, you start to track what you consume. Tracking is also healthier, in my opinion, than measuring because it's not compulsive. Tracking is just to find information. It's a way to get data on what you choose in a time frame. But it's not asking you to do something compulsory. Every single thing that goes in your body, from a handful of cashews to the latest bulletproof MCT concoction, you track it. And then ask yourself simple questions. Where can I exchange a processed food for a whole food? How can I consume an additional serving of protein in my day? Instead of soda, what's one sugar-free beverage I can enjoy? Which restaurants close to work offer whole food options instead of packaged options? When I take clients out for dinner, what's the healthiest option they would go for? By asking yourself these questions, you'll begin to personally affect your habits, daily choices, and ultimately your health. Because it's a process, and you must participate in the process. No coach or trainer will ever put the food in your mouth for you. Pull up into a healthier restaurant or grab a handful of carrots instead of a perfect bar. So Ultimately, it comes down to the individual level and a willingness to take stock of where you're at and begin to make changes. If you struggle with making those changes, reach out to a professional who's licensed in the area of making changes regarding food and the psychological component to that, so that you can not just overcome this once, not just lose 5 pounds once, not just put the muscle on once, so you can develop a new habit, a new groove in your brain of what you're doing, so that once you put forth the effort to make the change, you don't have to keep doing it again. You do it once. I'd like to leave you with one final note on nutrition, and admittedly, this is an overly simplistic example, but I leave this to demonstrate a concept about awareness. Again, I fielded the question a million times of what more can I do? I don't understand. I'm not able to manage my weight. I'm not losing the weight that I want, and I'm doing everything right. Surely some things must not be done right if the outcome isn't being produced. If nutritional choices are perfect and healthy, overweight or obese won't be the outcome. Barring, of course, a couple small percentage diagnoses that would prevent this from happening. So assuming that you don't have one of those, and only you can find out from a doctor, if nutrition is perfect, obesity and weight gain won't be the result. So let me just give you a brief example. Over the last 8 years, many times I've heard this. I'm not sure why I'm struggling to lose weight because I'm really good all week and I've been mindful with my food. To which I ask, how's your alcohol consumption? To which I hear, it's not bad. I only had drinks on Friday and Saturday. About how many? Only 4 each day. If we consider this by national standards, 8 beers a week is not that bad. But let's just do the math really quickly, and I'll explain this in a broader sense. So if we look at a glass of wine is 123 calories, a pint of beer is 154, a shot of tequila is 70, and approximately 3,500 calories are in a pound of fat. For this example, I'm going to use beer. So if you have 4 beers times 2 days of the week is 8 beers. Times 154 calories is 1,232 calories, a little over a third of a pound of fat in the weekend if that caloric consumption is not expelled via exercise. So essentially we're considering this in a little bit of a vacuum. Now do this for the month, considering this is a weekly occurrence, so that you have roughly 8 beers a week, every week. That's about 4,928 calories in a month. Now let's assume behaviors don't change and this pretty much stays the same through the year. Surely this person may drink more during the holidays, for example, and less at other times. So this becomes, so if you take 4,928 calories a month times 12 months is 59,136 calories annually, divided by 3,500 calories in a pound of fat is roughly 17 pounds per year, 16.896 to be exact. How many people do you know in your life, extended circle, friends, family, relatives, who've gained 15 pounds in a year? It's common and it's prevalent and it's preventable. So I show this example for no reason than to demonstrate the effect something, quote, not that bad could have on our body. Of course, this is overly simplistic and doesn't take into account myriad factors, including changes in metabolic rate, activity levels, etc. But take this example and think of how many other items, food, snacks, drinks, parties, company events, social behaviors can go unmanaged and then result in weight gain. It's not what is happening in that moment or in that day. It's the compounded effect of these things over time within the year. Nobody needs to become obsessive compulsive fitness junkie to live a healthy lifestyle. That's a fact. Far from it. Instead, we need to take stock of our lives, see where we are, and make whatever adjustments feel manageable for the desired outcome that we want. If you're lost, reach out to a professional. If you want to improve your movement mechanics, you want to get stronger, you want to get faster, you want to get better conditioned, you want to accomplish some sort of fitness goal, a marathon, a triathlon, you want to join a bike club, but you're worried that your conditioning isn't up to par, you want to start running with a group of people in your neighborhood, but you're intimidated about starting to run. All of these things trainers will be the absolute best for. They will help motivate you, they will help build proficiencies, they will help get you there. But in my opinion, after having done this for a long time, is that when it comes to nutrition, food choices, day-to-day choices, weight loss, weight management, and how important food is in this equation, I highly recommend that the first stop on your journey is a registered dietitian or a doctor who can do blood work and actually tell you what you might need, what you might be missing. Because giving nutritional advice is outside of our scope of practice. I think probably the most important thing that I've learned in my 8 years within this industry is how important sleep is. And I believe this so heavily that on the 26th of May, I'm having Dr. Jennifer Martin on the podcast to talk specifically about sleep. Her 3-day seminar changed my life entirely. Listening to her speak, made me leave that conference room asking myself who I was and why I didn't know all this stuff beforehand. I went home and I obsessed about sleep and trying to improve it. And it was only then that I realized what I had been missing for so long. Because in the past, I guess I always identified with that. Sleep is the cousin of death. You'll sleep when you're dead. Every time whenever you're sleeping, you're not working. So I would just stay up late, work or watch TV, scroll through social media, waste time laying in bed. And I would get up early and I would go and function. I would go work. I would work hard and I would do it repeatedly all the time. Dr. Martin showed me that this is just no matter how you feel about sleep, what's happening physiologically can be very different. Nothing will impact your ability to recover from exercise, manage weight, maintain daily mental acuity, and progressively maintain your output than sleep. How you do this is a challenge. It took me about 1.5 years to really figure out how to get quality sleep repeatedly. And it came down to 2 main things, of which I'm sure we'll expand upon in the coming week. Changing your sleep environment. That is actually physically where you go to bed. What does that area look like? Because for me, it used to look like a bed, a computer, and a phone. And those were all used together, constantly stimulated by LED exposure, blue light, and not to mention the mental stimulation of being fed information that you're looking at. So if you're watching a movie, the movie's going to make you think and feel certain things. That's going to keep you alert. It's not going to promote restfulness. So changing my environment was a big part of this. Removing cell phones and computers from the bedroom was really hard in the beginning because it was such a habit, but it became instrumental in my ability to then fall asleep. Changing your hygiene is another thing. And this is how you treat sleep, how you treat the time before sleep and after sleep. The best way to start to impact these things is to measure them. Like I've said before, what's measured gets managed. And thinking you slept well or thinking you slept poorly are all thoughts. They're not facts. When you measure your sleep, you know if the feeling and the facts line up, and that helps you develop awareness. So you can use something like the Apple Watch Sleep Plus Plus app, Whoop, or a Ring. These are all things that help you track your sleep so that you can actually know how much you're sleeping, what stages of sleep you're getting into, what your resting heart rate is, your heart rate variability, how many hours you actually spend in bed versus how many hours you spend asleep. Of the hours that you spend asleep, what is the quality of those sleep hours? All of these things matter because if you want to improve the quality of your overall sleep, you have to address these individually, especially in the beginning when you're making habit changes. So for me, it was really important to track my sleep for the first couple months there and actually develop a sense of awareness of knowing whether or not me feeling like I was rested actually equated to real restfulness. Because what had happened before is I had been telling myself that I was rested and then going and producing physical output constantly, when in reality I wasn't. And it makes me wonder how much more I could have accomplished or done had I known about improving the quality of my sleep in the past. Again, this is why I'm so excited to have Dr. Martin on here. She is phenomenal, and I'm excited to hear, now 2 years later, what has changed in the science of sleep, what maintains the same, and what kind of things we can do on a personal level to help impact this amazing time of day. Next, we're going to talk about strength training. A little bit about my history as a weightlifter. I obviously spent a lot of time in the weight room when I was an athlete, skiing competitively. But when I got back into training, it's funny, when I was working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, I would actually go to the LA Fitness on Wilshire at 5 a.m, and I would bring my suit and tie to work, do this workout that I had learned in high school, write it down in a composition notebook, and I would do this 4 days a week. And I missed training so much. I would go into work at Enterprise and just be miserable. And ultimately, down the road, this is what led me to pursue a career in personal training and fitness, is because I missed it so much. And I was squeezing it into this very early part of my day. And I longed to be in that environment. When I started training, you definitely you train alongside your coworkers, and I was fortunate enough to have very intelligent, well-versed coworkers that inspired me to keep trying to get strong and pursue different areas of fitness, as I tend to be a person that learns best by doing. And so for me, although I would read all the different strength protocols and ways to get stronger and different phases of training and microcycles and macrocycles and different modalities to use based on the outcome that you wanted, I always felt like I learned best by participating. So I ended up doing quite a bit of, traditional bodybuilding, squat, bench, deadlift type training for about a year and a half. I competed in Olympic weightlifting. I really miss actually training at Venice Barbell Club before it closed. Just exploring different areas and really beating myself up while I did it. To be honest, strength training is not kind to the body, nor is really anything I like to do. Jiu-jitsu is particularly rough on your low back and on your neck. But strength training, especially, if you are not really pragmatic about how you progress through a program, the intensity, which I wasn't ever, you're really always putting yourself at risk because the loads can be so heavy. And I've been laid up entirely with back injuries from deadlifting. I've had hip injuries from back squatting. I've been able to back squat 385 pounds in the past. I happily say that I cannot back squat even close to that, not even in the ballpark, not even in the universe of that today. And I'm totally okay with that, because through all of this, through the injuries, the pain management, obsessing over getting stronger, critiquing of other people's programs, judgment, I've realized that it's not about being as strong as you can. It's really just about being as strong as you need to be to do the things you like to do. That's what my philosophy is these days. And I like to do a lot of things. And those things all require an able body. So if I'm injuring myself strength training, that's really not lending itself to me doing the things that I love to do. But this idea, this be as strong as you need to be, is so beautiful because it's applicable to any person. If you have an interest in just getting as strong as possible, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. You will have fun along that journey. But that's not everybody's story. And I've been in that place before where all I cared about was being the strongest person I possibly could be at all costs. Now I understand that strength training is an element of my life that allows me to express myself in the things that I like doing to the furthest degree. But having that mindset has largely shifted the way in which I train, how intensely I train, and how frequently I train intensely. In the past, I felt like I was always trying to one-up myself from the time before. If I could get an extra 2.5 pounds on the bar, I would do it. If I could make a big jump in strength, I'd go for it. And part of this, admittedly, was vanity. I definitely thrived in strength training within an environment where there's other people. And at this point, I have trained in my garage for the past 2 years, and nobody's been there. It's kind of nice. But I guess, ultimately, the way to apply this to life is to ask yourself, what are the events in your life that you need to be strong for? Do you need to defend yourself and your family? Do you need to go long distances without fatigue? Do you want to be able to load and unload groceries pain-free? Do you want to be able to sit on the toilet without assistance when you're 70? All of these questions should guide how you train. And a good trainer, a good coach, they will help navigate that for you. Because the solution to every person's desires is not to just deadlift an insane amount of weight. It may be the case that deadlifting or squatting fits into their strength program and what they need to do to get the outcome that they want. But you should let the questions that you ask yourself guide your program selection, your exercise selection more than anything else. If the number one most important thing to you is camaraderie and community, and you just like to get out, get a sweat in, and be around other people, then group fitness is a phenomenal way to accomplish that. It's high energy. You'll be pushed. You'll get in there, do your full training session within a certain amount of time, usually about an hour. Other people will be cheering you along the way. You'll feel great when you're done, but you're not working towards a specific goal. And that's not bad, but that's just calling a spade a spade. If you want to do a triathlon, you have to be very wise about the amount of time you spend strength training, the amount of time you spend swimming, the amount of time you spend biking, and the amount of time you spend running. Because you have to choose the right mix to get the best performance outcome. If you spend too much time weightlifting, you'll be too slow. If you tend to spend too much time running and no time strength training, you might get injured. So asking yourself, what is it that I want to accomplish? What things in my life need strength? What things in my life need endurance? And if you're someone who doesn't have any activities in your life, and fitness or wellness, working out is that thing, then ask yourself, what about this excites me? What areas do I find cool? Do kettlebells excite you? Is that something you'd like to learn? Have you always been fascinated by gymnastics or calisthenics? Are you interested in endurance and long duration exercise bouts like rowing. When you ask yourself these questions, you'll start to get the answers that you want, and they'll push you in the right direction so that you can accomplish the things that you want to do. But don't look to social media. Social media will tell you you're weak. Social media will tell you you're doing it wrong. And in reality, your strength, improvements, and performance should be relative to one person, you. Because social media doesn't know your life history, doesn't know what you're working on, doesn't know where you want to go. You're only seeing the end result of somebody else's work. You're seeing the coolest thing, the highest jump, the longest run, the most weight ever. It doesn't really shed light on the process. And that's the part that you really need to fall in love with if this is going to be something that sticks with your life habits. Are you stronger than you were yesterday for the tasks that you have to complete? Are you strong enough to play with your kids? Then you're strong enough. You don't need much more strength than that. If you take care of the things that allow you to do the stuff that you love to do, and then you find a way to eat well, eat more mindfully, those two things will just create a better life. So I get asked all the time, what is the best exercise? If you could do one exercise and no other exercises, what would it be? And here's the answer. There isn't one. There really isn't one. And that's because the exercise that you choose should be chosen to solve something that needs to be solved to live longer, perform the demands you experience each day, and prevent injury from non-acute trauma. If your knees are trash, you should address this in your training, not just back squat until you hurt something. So there isn't a best exercise. There's just the right exercise. The right exercise to tackle the hurdles in front of you to produce the outcome that you want. Get-ups are cool. Deadlifts are cool. Deadlifts are fun. Battle ropes look cool. Rowing looks intense. VersaClimber is absolute hell. All of these don't mean anything if you're not using them for the right purpose to produce an outcome that you want for your life based on what you do. If you surf and you want to get better at surfing and all you do is 1-rep deadlifts, that's not really serving you. So again, you have to ask yourself, what are the things in my life that I want to improve? And then based on that answer, select exercises that support that outcome. And if you don't know how to do that, send me a message. Or, better yet, reach out to a trainer in your community, someone who knows more than you about movement, mechanics, wellness, and pursuing all these together to get the outcomes that you want. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a yoga class and I thought to myself, I'm going to try to do this whole thing breathing through my nose. Because I was under the impression that real yogis only breathe through their nose when they're doing their practice. And I would hear the instructor say something like, if you lose your breath, slow down so that you can maintain the breathing pattern through your nose. And what would ensue was about 5 minutes of really difficult struggling through maintaining these poses and my breathing pattern, followed by frustration, followed by breathing through my mouth, followed by always trying to do the hardest thing. I've actually injured myself in yoga because of this. To think now, 2.5 years past probably my most recent yoga class, that I can run 9 miles without ever breathing through my mouth, it surprises me. And it is a result of 2 books. Deep by James Nestor and his second book, Breathe. In Deep, James follows a group of freedivers around the world for about 2 years, participates in freediving, and monitors the competitive circuit where these divers dive to ungodly depths and hold their breath in some cases for 23 minutes. I think the record for static apnea, which is laying face down in a shallow pool and holding your breath, is somewhere around 24 or 25 minutes. I know that to be true, and I still don't believe it. It's insane. And when he wrote Breathe, maybe I was primed to be interested in this kind of stuff, but I'd always been curious about the impact that breath can have on performance because of strength training, because of weightlifting, because I know how valuable using your diaphragm, which requires good breathing mechanics, to stabilize your trunk allows you to become stronger. Because if you can't stabilize your trunk, you're going to be limited in how much weight you can load on your body. So I had used breath tactics in strength training to help build strength, but I had never used nasal breathing patterns to help with cardiovascular performance. And James's book really opened me up to this entire world of breathing, and not from like a woo-woo, like holotropic, kind of like, I don't know. I don't mean to hate on breath work facilitators, because I respect that has a place in the world and in the wellness community. But sometimes I feel like it's a little bit woo-woo and I can't really get on board with it. James, on the other hand, worked alongside Dr. Jayakar Nayak at Stanford, and he was able to put the whole idea of breath work in a clinical setting and apply it to performance. At the same time that was happening, you're also starting to see a lot of athletes utilize nasal breathing patterns and tactics to improve their performance, specifically in martial arts, which is where I'm exposed to it the most. But all of this culminated into really a fascination around breathing, about my breathing patterns, my personal relationship to breathing throughout the day, how much I didn't think about it, and how much I was breathing through my mouth before I started thinking about it. I'm not really going to get into all of James's work. One, because I think you should read the book, and two, there's not a snowball's chance in hell I would be able to convey all the information in that book from memory. It's dense, and there's a lot of science and research behind it. So I will let him and his book and the research that they did speak to the benefits of nasal breathing. But I can only say that in my experience, it has taught me to slow down a lot in everything that I do, in jiu-jitsu, in striking, in running, in surfing. And it's tempted me to explore what my breathing does in different areas, when my respiration becomes heightened and chaotic, and when it becomes controlled and downregulated. And those may not sound like very important things if you're just going about your day. But in sports, specifically in jiu-jitsu and combat sports, grappling, martial arts, your breath is the threshold between you losing your shit and you holding it. Being able to have a better relationship with the way that I breathe allows me to stay calm. And when you're calm under pressure, you can make decisions. When you're losing your mind under pressure and you're breathing like a madman, you can't make very good decisions. And when you can't decide under pressure, you get beat. So for me, it has a direct application to the sports that I love to do. But for the average person, think about this. In a bout of exercise, what do you feel limited by? Your cardiovascular strength or your physical strength? Typically, you cannot access your physical strength if you're limited by your cardiovascular strength. Meaning, if there were 95 pounds on the ground and you're out of breath, you can't begin to think about picking that up. But if there's 95 pounds on the ground and your breath is controlled, you're in a much better position to do so. As your fatigue kicks in, your strength falls off. So your conditioning, your ability to breathe under pressure and maintain quality breathing patterns is the precursor to strength. And I never knew how valuable this was until the past year and a half, when I really started to see how much better exercise feels when you're truly in control of your breath, when you regulate your breathing. I know when my heart rate's going to spike, but I allow it to do so when I'm training. Being able to go through an entire workout and only breathe through your nose is a very different experience than feeling winded, than panting, than feeling out of breath and convulsing. That's not an ideal breathing pattern. I think that breathing and bracing and learning how to utilize this practice within training has taught me more about training than anything else. And if I could go back, I would have spent a lot more time with clients further instilling quality breath mechanics beyond diaphragmatic breathing. But it's a tough thing to get people on board for, because you don't know what you're missing. And to achieve what you're missing, to experience the benefits, it takes quite a time commitment. You really do have to be interested in continually pursuing improvements from your breathing and your breath mechanics. And because you're learning to breathe through your nose while you're training, it takes a while because it's uncomfortable in the beginning and it's very hard. And so you have to get through these different thresholds. But when you do, I can only describe it as a level of self-control that I didn't know existed prior. All right, so let's talk about supplements. I would like to start by saying I love supplements, and I'm trying to develop a better relationship with them. All right, let's talk about supplements. I'd like to start with the definition of a supplement because I think it's integral in understanding what they are and how to use them. It's hidden in plain sight. Supplements are defined by the Oxford Dictionary as something that completes or enhances something else when added to it. The reason that I emphasize this so much is because supplements are not a solution. Supplements don't fix problems. They enhance performance, which means that performance is a prerequisite for their use if you're looking to use them effectively. Somehow, the fitness industry has capitalized on the ability to market these products to the mass public in cool, colorful containers alongside athletes without having to show you how they're actually going to help you. And more importantly, where they're effective. And maybe most importantly, if me, should even be using them in the first place. Because ultimately, whether or not you use a supplement should really be decided by you and your doctor based on your blood profile and them conducting a full intake on you to find out what your baseline biomarkers are in the first place. What if you have a pre-existing heart condition and taking pre-workout is going to negatively affect you, but you don't know that? But you're marketed it, so you take it anyway because it promises that you'll be stronger in your workout. If you don't have the mechanical skills to perform a strength exercise proficiently to the level where you can even invite strength into the conversation, then taking a pre-workout definitely isn't going to solve that for you. And I include myself in this boat. I keep saying you, but I'm really talking to myself as well. I am a sucker for supplements. I am the person that they are marketed to. I want to jump on board with everything because I love performance. I'm constantly maintaining a high output. And it's very easy for me to get sucked into the marketing and want to use these. But I have to remind myself that I should only be adding supplements into my regimen that are going to enhance something that I'm already doing. So I get asked every week, what supplements should I take? The real question that you should ask is, what does my blood profile look like? Where are my cholesterol levels? Where's my resting heart rate? What's my relative VO2 max? These questions tell you more about what you should put in your body than anything else. They actually give individual feedback to you if you ask them. If someone sleeps 6 hours a night, overeats, drinks too frequently, only exercises for 60 minutes a week, what business do they have taking pre-workout, glutamine, fat burners, creatine, caffeine pills? Honestly, supplementing poor nutrition, sleep, output with well-marketed products is like washing your car in the rain. Plain and simple. You will not, I repeat, you will not achieve your desired outcome if you overlook baseline health factors. We all need to address the most reductionist version of what we're trying to accomplish. So if we want to get stronger, the pre-workout at the health club isn't going to do it for us. 1 scoop of creatine isn't going to do it for us. 2 scoops of protein powder after a workout isn't going to do it for us. Improving movement mechanics, improving your ability to create leverage, to create tension in your trunk, that's going to help you get stronger. If you want to get faster, improving your gait, improving your running stride, improving your arm drive, that's going to help you get faster. If you want to swim faster, improving your stroke to breath ratio, improving your swim mechanics, your head position, where your head sits in the water and what that does to your body as you propel yourself through the pool, that's going to help you swim faster. Taking pre-workout before you swim, not going to make you swim faster. Might give you a heart attack. Taking BCAAs before you go and train plyometrics, not going to help you dunk a basketball. Working on how you gather your feet, working on explosive plyometric movements, power cleans, jump training, that's going to help you dunk a basketball. But a supplement's not going to do that for you. And this isn't to demonize all supplements. There's a reason that they exist, and in some cases, they're very useful. But it's knowing when and where to use them that is so valuable. Celery juice won't reduce your mile time when you're sleeping 5 hours a night. Pre-workout's not going to help you set a PR when you're not consuming enough calories to support muscle development. And drinking bulletproof coffee is not going to help you lose weight when you forget to account for the fact that a bulletproof coffee has 500 calories in it. But there is one positive to supplements, and it is the reason that I'm comfortable with Athletic Greens being a sponsor of this show, despite me not being a dietitian, a doctor, or someone that I would feel comfortable advising people on what they should and shouldn't take. That's why it's a recommendation, and it's just something that I do in my life that I'm happy to share with the listeners of this show, and a sponsor that I'm excited about because I've used them for a long time before they were even a sponsor. And that's because it's just micronutrients, baseline nutrients that you can take into your body. And if someone, I'll give you an example. Sometimes interest in supplements can start to lead someone down a positive path of reinforcement. So if someone's asking, what supplements should I take? The underlying theme there is that they're interested in bettering their health. That's great. That's what we should all be after anyway. So when I hear that, my initial reaction isn't all supplements are the devil. There's a lot more questions to ask when I hear that. But one thing it does tell me is that this person's interested in bettering their current position, and that's a positive. So when someone, for example, starts taking, I'll again use Athletic Greens as an example, starts taking them in the morning, it's a potential to form a habit. So you do this every morning. You're starting your day. The very first thing you do in your day, you're starting your day with nutrients. That's a good thing. What if doing that makes you more interested about having a healthier breakfast or choosing more whole foods when you sit down for lunch? Because you're starting your day with something positive. It may not, but it may change your behavior throughout the day. And in that case, this after effect of supplements is really positive. Even if the supplement did nothing, the supplement itself did nothing, but it made you choose better things throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year, and you're now living a healthier lifestyle. That's one intangible benefit to supplement use that I've seen and I believe in. Is it fulfills this curiosity and helps open more doors to healthier options in the future. Of course, I'm being quite selective with what supplements I feel fall in that category. Daily vitamins and minerals would be another thing that I think falls into that. They can help stoke this curiosity and move you forward down to healthier choices throughout the day. If the question was, which one of these fat burners should I take in the morning? I don't think that that's what we're after. So I hope that this information has been helpful and shed some light on some different ways to think about the fitness industry, some of the themes within it, nutrition, strength training, some do's and don'ts, mistakes I've made, ones that I hope you don't, the world of supplements, how important sleep is, and to pay attention to your breath every day until you start to understand how much control over it can impact your well-being. So thank you for tuning in this week. I apologize for not having the other episodes scheduled and ready, but that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Consistency is king. There will always be an episode on Tuesday. And I'm very excited for the guests that I have coming up this next month. Thank you for listening.